Foot position, foot position, foot position. This is a contentious topic with lots of back and forth in the surfing community about which way the feet should be facing in different times of the wave and when completing different maneuvers. But today we're going to settle this once and for all. I am joking a little bit here, but what I'm going to do today is aim to break down how to position your feet, in my opinion, perfectly, going through all of the important elements of surfing, these being the pop-up, your trimming, turning, as well as cross-stepping. Now, we're going to break this down with both land and in-water drills so that you can really get the most of this and to take each skill one step at a time. So I'd recommend checking it all out. And if you are new here, my name's Considine, and I'm a professional longboarder, a surf coach, as well as a physiotherapist. And I created a platform called longboardsessions.com, which is the raddest, coolest place ever to help surfers develop the best in their surfing. And today with this video, I aim to help you with your surfing no matter where you're at. And if you do find this useful and you find it valuable, then please feel free to subscribe as well as share it to anyone else who might find the same. Let's get straight into it. Let's start with what I think is the core of everything, where your feet land during the pop-up. The most important part that you need to know here, in my opinion, is the landing of your front foot. And this is probably one of the most common issues I see with when I'm coaching. When we're having problems with this, the front foot lands either too turned in or too turned out. And if you're doing either of these, we will run into some issues that not only affect the pop-up, as we'll speak about now, but also have ongoing effects for your surfing on the wave. So they're super important to get right. So firstly, if your front foot lands too parallel to the stringer, so not enough rotation, then it becomes like we're almost standing on a tightrope, which will be inherently unstable and decrease your support. When you're trying to shift your weight side to side, heel to toe, you won't be able to do this as effectively, which is a big problem. Therefore, we run into issues where you can't really engage the rail or utilize the compression of the front knee correctly, which, as I said, has many ongoing effects. Now, it's also true that if we're going too far the other way, that this becomes a less commonly thought about problem as well. There's some contention around this, but let me give you my 2 cents on what I've found helps surfers the most. If the front foot lands too far turned in, meaning it's at a 90-degree angle across the board, that often feels stable with a large surface area going crossways over the board at first, but it restricts your movement in a different way. And getting into this position is hard, and one of the reasons you may be struggling with your pop-up. As you can see, for the pop-up, you have to rotate the hips much further around in order to get the foot positioning landing correctly, perpendicular to the stringer. This is going to be hard for anyone, let alone those who are just learning, or maybe people who have had some mobility and movement restrictions as they age with surfing. And once standing, we'll of course speak about these issues in the coming points, but everything regarding rotation, cross-stepping, and just feeling more natural on the wave is compromised. So we might ask, what is the sweet spot here? And what you want to do is 45-degree angle. That front foot landing somewhere around the 45 degrees across the stringer, this really does promote a few important things. Firstly, it gives you a super solid base. It opens the hips up enough so that your chest and shoulders can rotate naturally toward the wave or the nose of the board as we want. And it lets your body flow from an easier pop-up into the surfing stance we want. So when you're working on your pop-up, whether that's in the water or doing the land drills, get that front foot underneath your chest, rotate it enough to open you up to a 45-degree angle. Now, let's talk about the back foot, and more specifically, the relationship between both feet once you're up and riding. This is where a lot of surfers end up in what I call the duck stance. So you've got your front foot angled forward correctly at the 45-degree angle, but then your back foot is rotated much too toward the tail. And that creates a kind of V shape that you might not even realize that you're doing. But the problem is the V shape locks up your hips and it makes it really hard to pivot or generate any sort of drive. Your knees and hips will get locked up, and unfortunately, you either get into that poo stance or your board just doesn't respond the way that we need it to. So for this, ideally, we want the back foot to be perfectly perpendicular to the stringer. And yes, that means that position that we didn't want for the front foot, we now want for the back foot. We do not position the back foot and the front foot the same all the time. This will get us control at the tail and get both feet working to their advantages. The front foot allowing for compression, control, and rotation, and the back foot allowing for stability and optimal rail engagement. With this, you'll feel more dynamic and the board will respond better when you shift your weight forwards and backwards. And super quickly, but for those of you who are interested and who want to connect the dots between a good pop-up, your trimming, carving and turning, as well as cross-stepping, all of the stuff we're touching on here, feel free to check out longboardsessions.com. There's free resources which can really help, like our surf progression maps and our skills definitions, which take you chronologically, step by step through what you should be learning, as well as the membership in the community for for more help and access to heaps more. So feel free to check that out if that's something that you're interested in, and would be stoked to see you in there. But this leads right into the next piece: trimming and acceleration, and how our feet actually comes into play here. A lot of surfers know that they should be shifting their weight to move faster or slow down, but the board doesn't seem to respond. And that's often because, again, of our poor foot positioning. When both feet are placed well, say front foot at around that 45-degree angle and the back foot at 90 degrees across, your weight can move forward and backward much more cleanly. If the feet are off though, say both feet are at that 90 degrees or in our duck stance, then you can try and move forward, but it feels like your hips are stuck behind you and you can't move cleanly or efficiently, or your shoulders have to twist awkwardly. You can't get that clean lean into the wave, and the board doesn't respond and accelerate the way that you want it to. But when you're well aligned, your chest can lean forwards over that front foot really nicely, or you can shift back slightly to stall and redirect. One thing here that makes this so good is, yes, the chest is more easily pointing forwards, but most importantly, we can filter weight as we weight shift forwards onto the forefoot and toes, rather than what is super limiting about this super lateral stance with the front foot at 90 degrees, where if we want to lean forwards, all of our weight goes onto the outside aspect of the foot, that kind of outer bony ridge of the little toe, and this is not an effective or efficient way to distribute and absorb loads on the board. Yet this is a super, super common pattern that I see. So in short, that's how you want to surf: smarter, not harder. And now one for the longboarders. This is a big one: cross-stepping. When your feet aren't right, this becomes a massive problem for keeping balance, being able to transition the body weight cleanly and smoothly up the board as you transition weight from one foot to the next, and feeling like you have no room to get one foot across and over the other. A good cross-step all comes from ensuring the feet position are there to assist. And so what does this really look like for our cross-stepping? Once again, our golden rule for the front foot applies, and that means having that front foot at 45 degrees angled across the stringer, as this allows for really nice soft heel toe roll when we're stepping. Or if we need to be delicate, which is more often than not, we can step onto the ball of our feet, kind of like we're trying to tiptoe and sneak around the house. If our front foot is at 90 degrees, we'll more likely get a thumping motion as well as we step through, which isn't good. The same actually goes for the back foot in cross-stepping here, which is the point of difference. Keeping a slightly forward angled back foot, definitely not parallel and not necessarily at 45 degrees. I'm less stringent with that angle for the back foot. But by having some forward angle, this can really help the heel toe action landing on the toes to be delicate, just like we mentioned. Where this changes for the back foot is in the nose ride stance, but that is a topic for another video. On this topic as well, if our feet are perpendicular to the stringer, our hips are sideways and our chest is sideways. And this is a massive problem for people with their backhand cross-stepping in particular. And this means that we end up doing this grapevine sort of cross step where we can just barely bring one foot in front of the other because the hips are so tight from the position that we're in. It's way better to be forward facing, allowing for the transference of weight cleanly up and down the board by having the chest opening up to where we're going and keeping our center of mass centrally over the board and over that front foot. Now finally, let's talk turns. So turning isn't just about throwing the arms and the tail around, it actually starts all from our feet. If your feet are too parallel, especially that front foot, again, kind of like we're walking a tightrope position, you don't have enough engagement of the rails using that heel toe action. You can't roll onto the rail with any control, and it's not very effective, and we definitely want to steer away from that. If your feet are too turned in at the 90-degree angle, you might be able to engage the rail okay, but your rotation for your body and your upper body won't be as efficient, and so we can't come into and out of the turn as effectively or smoothly either, and your hips get jammed or at least are a little bit limited. This is where we get a lot of our poo stance turns, falling off, bogging rail, and just impairing the transition into and out of the next maneuver. So good foot positioning here is all about giving yourself space to generate enough heel and toe action whilst enabling your upper body rotation. When that front foot is placed well, again at that 45-degree mark, and the back foot at 90, your chest can lean into your turns really, really cleanly. And when you want to release the turn, you've still got enough range through your hips to open the upper body up. So it's much smoother, it's much cleaner, and it's way more efficient. If you have any questions about this, then please just leave those in the comments below, and ideas for upcoming videos, any way that I can help, please let me know as well. Somewhere here on the screen is going to be a video which is actually going to help your turns. It's the last edit, so I recommend you checking out that as well. But thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.